Hi students, it's Arthur, and this module is on AI use cases in job search. And in this video, we're going to discuss the various ways to use AI in your job search. Now, this is not a how-to video, but a guide based on the AI-based tools and when they can be used in job search most effectively. Perhaps the most important thing is to know which ones to use, and that many are time sucks or money sucks, and may actually lead you to a more inferior product than what you really need. So what I will do is I will remind you to check out the module resources regarding each specific topic. But if you have any questions on any topic or product that you come across, please ask in our discussion section, send me an email, or reach out directly to the Cameron School of Business Career Success Center to talk through the tools. Now, the tools are evolving all the time, so it may be that we'll need to do a little bit of research to catch up at some point, but I try to do my best to stay on top of everything that's in job search and related to AI and the tools therefore. So I'm at least familiar with, I would say, the majority, if not significant, very high percentage of what's out there. So always check in with me because I'm always trying to do research on what's out there and what's new and next in AI and job search. AI is becoming more and more integrated into the job search process, both for candidates and the employers on the recruiting side. And despite this inevitability, people are still making decisions, despite what articles you may see out there about AI making the decisions, AI taking your job, all of these kinds of things. You know what? Most people don't trust AI yet to make people-based decisions, and people are still hiring and being hired. So in the end, and until people stop working directly with people, AI will really just be a tool in the process. And you'll still need to stand out in the traditional ways that we have done in the past, even as we evolve, at least for now. Now, things may change. We don't know what we don't know yet, but I think for the foreseeable future, it's still going to be about them, and them meaning people will continue to make decisions. And as long as people continue to make decisions, it really still is a process that's going to be heavily interpersonal and involved one-on-one with interactions with people. All right, what I want to do next actually is one of the tools that I have found online that I don't use that often, but occasionally I will, just to kind of give me an outline of a presentation. And it's a product called Beautiful AI. And because you are a student, actually you can access this for free for up to a year, and you just need to continue to update it with your UNCW email address credentials, and you'll be able to keep using this for free. It's a tool that it's an AI-based presentation tool that basically will create a presentation from scratch based on the topic that you give it. As with most things, it's only as good as the information it gets, so you have to put in a fairly complex prompt in order to get the right information. But I thought, you know what, let's see what this thing puts together for an overview on AI. And it actually put together something pretty interesting. So let's take you through that presentation. So AI-powered job search, your competitive edge. So the only thing I've really changed in here is all the graphics. I did change those so that they are representative to what we're going to be talking about, and obviously specific to UNCW in this particular case. But what's interesting about this is the majority of this presentation is 100% AI generated. Now, I did edit some of the bullets and some of the descriptive text in here, but in terms of the colors, I set that up as UNCW colors, so they all match up. And really, it just kind of gives you a sense of what you can put together pretty quickly. And the reason I wanted to show you this, maybe not quite so much for job search, but within school, if you have to do a presentation on a topic, this is a good way of kind of putting something together quickly, and it comes together with a very cohesive template and style as well. And then you just edit the text if it needs to be edited, and it does a pretty decent job. So for AI and job search, predominantly we're looking at things such as AI-powered resume screening. This is a bit more on the employer side, where employers are using AI algorithms to now start to look at resumes. They are not using it in a decision-making process yet, but we're starting to see more and more use of it, and it's not going to be very long, I think, before AI will become a partner in the screening process as well. And it's going to really come out in resume screening, but we'll also start to see it in interviewing as well. So we're already starting to see companies use virtual assistants for interviews. So what we'll do is we'll set up an interview for candidates, and it will be asynchronous. We'll give them questions, and the candidate will need to record their interview answers to this. On the flip side, we're starting to see also tools come out that will allow you to record your interview questions and responses and give you a grade on how you're doing. It will actually take a look at how you perform during the video recording. So there's some pretty interesting thing that's coming out with that. With respect to the resume writing, again, there are tools out there now that will do the resume and LinkedIn section writing based on your resume or based on information that you provide. It will create a tailored resume, quote unquote, and profile information to build these tools for you. We'll talk much more about that soon, but that's where you're starting to see a lot of AI tools come out. And additionally, we're starting to see assessments and AI algorithms being introduced to help students, but also business professionals, kind of analyze data on what's interesting to them, the skills they have, the personalities they have, the type of work preferences they prefer, and starting to pull all of that information together to give people recommendations on jobs, industries, those kinds of things, which is very similar to what we will use in the class, the Pathway U product. So basically, AI is starting to get really involved, and hopefully will continue to help us transform the process, which has been quite manual and quite arduous in many ways, to make it a more efficient process. For resume optimization, this is where, as I said, we're starting to see the tools really jump out there, and we'll talk through the more tools. But the problem with this is you still have to do a lot of work to get the information into the system. And by the time you do all of that, you could have written a resume. And that's where these things kind of fall down. Because if you just input a job description, or if you just kind of answer some basic questions and it creates a resume based on a title, for instance, if you want to be a financial analyst, it's going to put together a resume that may sound, at least on the surface, pretty good. But because it doesn't know you, it doesn't have your personal information attached, it's going to probably be very generic. And it's not going to be written in such a way that's going to also be customized from the perspective of the actual position. Now, you can do that using a job description and things of that sort, which we talk about in this class. But what I find is again, as you're putting a lot of work in here, and to get it customized to the point of where it makes good sense for you to use in your own job search, you could just use the normal tools and actually accomplish the same goal. LinkedIn optimization, it's the same way. So you can use these tools to optimize your headline, your LinkedIn summary, talk about the skills and recommendations, or the skills that you need for the role, and kind of populate that. But honestly, using the tools that generative AI provides can go through and do all of these things for you. You don't need a specific website to do these things. But this is where GenAI, in particular, for your resume optimization, to help you craft better bullets, to help you write a summary, to LinkedIn, to get it to write your headline, your about section, those kinds of things. This is where GenAI can really accelerate the process, make it much faster, and give you an output that actually may fit your requirements just with a little bit of prompting. And that's where we really see the value of this, is just speeding up a process that used to take more time, and having a resource there that can help you write better. For interview prep, we're starting to see some real value here too, in terms of creating questions for you that can be very specific based on the job description and company that you want to apply to. It will also give you an opportunity to ask it to give you end of interview questions as well. Those questions at the end of the interview that they ask you for, that will talk about culture, things that you're interested in. And so if you're struggling to come up with some interview questions, first of all, we do have a ton of module resources that you'll hear about in the interview section, but AI can also be used as well. And then, of course, AI, we can start to record ourselves in AI as well. And AI can do an analysis of our performance and talk to us about how fast we're speaking, if we're using appropriate language, such as gender-specific words, instead of generalization of gender, such as saying, hey guys, which is a little bit inappropriate if you have a mixed population of men and women, of course. Those kinds of things can be caught, and you can practice multiple times and seeing if you improve your performance in answering these questions. Some of the tools will actually analyze your answer based on the question as well, and whether or not you need to add more information. So things are coming along, and there are tools available now that you can use for interviewing prep. Of course, company research. You could use Google before and LinkedIn, but the generative AI tools that we have here and that we're going to talk about more, all of these can do a much better job. We can tailor the search. We can ask for very specific things instead of basically clicking hundreds of times to get the information, looking at the site and thinking, oh, that's not exactly what I was looking for. These GenAI solutions can give you very targeted search results and very targeted information very quickly. And then you can ask it, based on this, develop 5 interview questions that comes from this information, either those that could be asked of you or questions you could ask of them. Job description analysis. This is an area where I use AI quite a bit. I'll upload the job description and I'll ask for it to put out the key responsibilities, the key requirements, and the keywords that come from that resume that I may want to include in the resumes that I'm writing, or the student resumes that need to be customized for these roles. So you can optimize your resume against a job description using AI, and you can upload them both at the same time and use them to write your resume or customize your resume, write a cover letter, write a thank you letter, all of those things that can be very useful. When you put those two tools together, GenAI can help you through that process and give you a lot of very specific role-related information that can help you stand out in those processes. For job offers, once we get to that stage, GenAI can use this, although I would tell you that it's not quite ready yet for this kind of a process, because your process of evaluating jobs is going to be very unique to your own personal requirements. Yes, you can add that in there and then show or upload the job offer and see if it covers it. But quite often, job offers don't include everything that you may want to consider either. So although I do think you can use this to kind of analyze things, particularly if you've got multiple offers, to kind of compare one versus another, those would work. But I still don't feel that this is quite ready for AI implementation yet. So once you've accepted the job, can you use AI? Yeah, but it's a little bit more of a project management thing at this point. You can ask it for assistance in what you might want to do before you start the company. You could ask it to create an onboarding checklist for yourself, which might be very useful for you. You can use it to track your integration into the company using that checklist. And then you can use it to offer you support and assistance, sort of to optimize your performance as you go through it. You've got the job description, you're talking about what you're doing. You could focus on asking it, what areas should I focus on first in terms of doing my own research to help me meet these expectations for this role. And GenAI might be able to give you a good outline of things to look at, questions to ask, and ways of integrating yourself much quicker than you might otherwise do. So that just kind of gives you an idea of what GenAI can kind of do for you and what a very specific product like Beautiful AI can do. I don't use it a lot, as I said, but sometimes I'll use it as a thought starter to kind of get me kicked off on a presentation, and this kind of shows you what that looks like. Now moving back into our presentation. I really love this quote about AI. It's from Paul Ford, and he's a writer, an entrepreneur, and he writes for Wired magazine, or he's a contributor to Wired magazine. And he wrote this just not that long ago, May of 2024. And what his quote is what I love more than anything is the quality that makes AI such a disaster. Now, it's a little bit tongue-in-cheek here, but there's a lot of interesting points that he makes. If it sees a space, it will fill it with nonsense, with imagined fact, with links to fake websites. And yes, all of those things are really true. It possesses an absolute willingness to spout foolishness, balanced only by its carefree attitude towards plagiarism. AI is very simply a totally shameless technology. As I said, he talks about this with a little bit tongue-in-cheek, but the thing about AI that you really do need to understand is it's pulling information from either the internet or a subset of the internet that was created for its own learning purposes. Now, what we don't know is what that information consists of. And when it's creating an output or a response to a prompt that we have or a question that we have, we don't know where that information is coming from. In some cases, we have zero information because it doesn't cite its sources. Now, some of the tools will cite sources as it's producing its output for you, so you can click and follow up. You can also ask it to provide its sources, which will help. But the key thing is garbage in, garbage out. So if there's bad information on the internet about a certain subject that might be totally inaccurate, it could very easily pull this information into the output and act as if it's completely and totally 100% fact-based. And that's the danger of this. It doesn't know what good looks like. So if you're using it to say, write my resume, and it pulls an example from a very poorly written resume that it has in its database of information, it could give you information that's just plain wrong. Bad advice that will lead you the wrong direction that you intend to go. So that's the key thing about GenAI and all AI and all of the internet, quite frankly, as all of you know, right? You have no surety that the information is 100% correct unless you do really rigorously check your sources, which is what you should do. So let's talk about GenAI. So GenAI is a subset of AI in general. It focuses on teaching what you might call machines to produce original and creative content. Now, that original and creative content is just kind of a mashup of existing content. So you might argue with the terminology original and creative, and I wouldn't disagree with you. Unlike traditional AI, which operates based on predetermined rules, generative AI, though, is a product that has the ability to learn from data and generate content autonomously by itself. And it will learn if you teach it to learn as well. If you tell it this response is terrible and I need you to fix it because of X, Y, and Z, it will do that, and you definitely should do that. You definitely should train it. So these Gen AI tools can honestly do nearly everything you will need. So investing in a variety of tools is probably not going to be necessary. However, we will talk about those variety of tools so that you have a good understanding of what's out there and you can steer clear of things that perhaps don't suit you. So there's also a few things that GenAI cannot do, and we will show you some specific tools that might provide additional help in your job search, powered by AI. We're going to focus now on the generative AI solutions, which most everybody knows, and they feel like this is AI, which it's not. This is just one subset of AI. The question becomes, there's these five main ones, but there's also others, right? And I'm not mentioning Twitter or X's Grok or other or smaller applications. Some of them are very, very good. So don't get me wrong. I'm not leaving them out intentionally. I'm leaving them out just because there's so many to talk about. But these five are the dominant ones. And there are others out there, though, just so you know. Grok is one. Mistral is another that's French-based. There's several others out there as well. So just remember that in terms of this discussion. One thing that I really want you to focus on is also understanding where these tools pull their information. Some of them have real-time internet connection, such as Copilot, Perplexity, and Gemini. Claude is a tool that is self-contained. It does not have access to the internet. And depending on which version of ChatGPT you're using, you may or may not have access to the internet. One way of working with these tools that I find is probably the best way to sort of describe it is to treat these as team members. You're going to want to include other AI tools in this list for other things. We talked about beautiful AI for presentations. There's also some for social media management, for video management. But what I suggest is you find one or two, most likely from this population of 5, that you like for writing. Maybe one for searches that's accessing the real-time internet, maybe one for chatting in social situations, etc. Some of these have native apps for your mobile phone. But I want to really point out, but be sure it's from the actual company and not just using their model. So for instance, ChatGPT has had a app out there for a while, but other apps will say they're ChatGPT driven. So you have to be careful that you get it from the actual company. So in ChatGPT's case, it's going to be from OpenAI. Claude is a product by Anthropic. They just recently created their new app that is owned and run by Anthropic, but there are other apps out there that will say they're Claude driven, but again, they are not the actual company. So be careful when you're doing that and using a mobile app and making sure that you're using an app that does get its updates regularly from the particular company and is ideally run by that company. So I'm going to provide some short summaries based on the paid and free version, and the opinions that I'm going to share are really coming from curated information online, and then also my opinions based on my own very extensive use of all of these tools. I use all 5 of these periodically, and I keep up to date on all of them and their variations through various newsletters and other resources that I subscribe to and read on a consistent basis. I also then test them out. So I'll run queries or prompts on 2 or 3 different products at a different time, depending on where the products are in their updates, so to speak. So if you want to learn more, I'll start to share some more information in the module resources, of course, but email me information, ask in the discussion groups, or send me a question via email. And I'd be very, very happy to talk about where things are, what my opinion is, and where perhaps you might be able to do some own research on your own. So let's go through the different tools. So again, we're going to talk about the paid and free versions as we go through this. In my opinion, these two are the clear leaders, and many of the resources that I follow agree that Chat and Claude are the leaders at this point. OpenAI is the parent company of ChatGPT, and it also has other products within the OpenAI family as well, including DALL-E, which is their image generator. Sora is their brand new video generator that's really not, it's more in beta mode. But if you want to see something that'll really blow your socks off, go check out Sora.ai and check out the videos that they're able to create from text that's out there now. It's just amazing. In addition to that, these 2 products also have mobile app versions, and I'll talk a little bit about them as well. So ChatGPT has a paid version which uses their Chat 4 or 4.0, which O stands for Omni, O-M-N-I. And that's the most recent version as of May 2024. Chat is one of the strongest writers, but Chat is also quite verbose at times, and it also sounds sort of wooden and robotic. Once you kind of get used to what Chat sounds like, it doesn't sound very natural. It did at first when we started listening to it, not listening or reading it, but now we sort of kind of get the style of it, and that's how we know a lot of times, because we start to get used to it when sometimes we're reading AI-based or chat-based output in writing. The paid version is $20 a month, and it's not really for search, although it does have access to the live internet with the paid version. There are other tools that I'll talk to you about in terms of being better perhaps for search. The free version uses Chat 3.5, which is an older version or older format of their large language model. What's interesting though, with the 4.0 release, 4 Omni release, it's actually been made available on the free version, but in a very limited manner. So 4.0 is amazing. The free version using 4.0 is amazing, but you don't get very much use of 4.0 before it defaults you back to 3.5. Again, this has a mobile app, and this one is very, very good. The mobile app is awesome. In fact, you can actually treat it like a conversation on the mobile app. You can actually use your voice to deliver your prompt, and it will actually be a conversation back and forth. On Chat 4, it was fantastic. On 4 Omni, it's kind of amazing. So if you are willing to and have the ability to fork out $20 a month, Chat is a pretty fantastic tool, and you'll get some benefit on the mobile app that you wouldn't have otherwise. Claude 3 by Anthropic is the next one we'll go to, and Opus is its paid version. It's similarly costing $20 a month, which, by the way, is the magic number. All of these are $20 a month for their paid versions. As I mentioned before, Anthropic and Claude does not have real-time internet access, so you cannot search for information that might be very, very new. However, its database of information runs to, I think, something like April 2023. So it's got most of the information that it has access to will be extremely relevant. So you don't have to worry so much about that. But if you're doing research that requires real-time information, just make sure you understand that and use a different tool. This one is also the best for summarization of large documents. It has the largest context memory that you have access to with the different tools, and that's included with the free version as well. Basically, it will access and be able to handle 10 times more information than Chat does if you want to upload a large PDF document, for example. Opus is a very, very strong writer, and in my opinion, I like it better as a writer. It doesn't sound quite as wooden or robotic as ChatGPT does. But just so you know, you can always change the tone, you can change the audience. And so for instance, you could tell it you want it to write in a more casual, friendly tone, and your audience and it should be written at a high school 12th grade level. And it'll change completely the tone and the word choices that it has. So that's a way of getting it to write in a bit more of a casual style if that's what you're going for. So Sonnet is the free version of Claude 3. It is a slightly weaker version or a weaker writer than Opus, but the gap, in my opinion, between Sonnet and Opus is very small. So if you want to go with the free version, I recommend Claude 3 Sonnet as of May 2024. Chat 3.5 is great, and in fact, if you kind of blend those two together, and you'll find one that actually seems more natural to you to use and easier for you to use, and the output sounds more like you and how you want it to sound. That's the direction you should go. Don't necessarily pick one just because I say so, but try them out and use my opinions perhaps to guide you a little bit, but certainly not to make your choice. Gemini and Copilot are the next level down, in my opinion. Gemini, which is by Google, its paid version, again, $20 a month, is the $20 per month. At the time of this video, they offer a 2-month trial period. You do have to put your credit card in there, so you have to be careful that at the end of the 2 months you don't get charged that $20. But if they still do offer the trial period, I highly recommend you go for it. Gemini is a strong writer. It, similar to Claude, I think writes a bit more natural sounding than ChatGPT. And also, because it accesses the live internet, it makes it for a great search tool. And in fact, I use Gemini and Copilot, and then the following product, Perplexity, in a moment. I use those as a replacement for Google search. Well, depending on what I'm looking for. If it's something simple, I'll still use just Google search. The basic tool, it's a much weaker writer than the paid version. There's a noticeable difference in my opinion. And also, for whatever reason, it needs coaching and reminding more often than the others, again, in my opinion. But the basic level, again, is still a great search tool. So similarly, Copilot is a product of Microsoft in this case, and it replaced Bing. So Bing is no longer a thing in terms of Bing was the first, it was a search engine, then it was the first iteration of the AI tool, now being replaced by Copilot. It is a pretty decent writer. It has limited, I think basically it's not quite as good in terms of search, but it's also quite good. And one thing I don't like about it, also similar to Gemini, you kind of need to remind it what to do at times. And so when it says limited searches, that is some limitations that you have using context window in terms of the amount of information you can feed it. But with your UNCW credentials, you actually get the little bit more advanced version of Copilot, which is great. So the best thing about this is it has access to ChatGPT 4 Omni and 4, but as I said, it has a limited context window. So in other words, you can't put a lot of information in there, and it has a tendency to forget if you have a long chat going. Perplexity is the last of these. It's, in my opinion, this one was fantastic, but it's starting to lose its shine a little bit as a real-time internet tool. So as Gemini has coming out and gotten a lot stronger and integrated within the Google environment, I think Perplexity is going to start losing its benefit. Copilot may similarly also eat into market share as well. The free version uses OpenAI's chat model, 3.5. The paid version uses ChatGPT 4 and 4 Omni. But given that, and it's not a real price advantage, it's still $20 a month. It has a shorter context window. And although it is a decent writer, I think it tends to forget as well in terms of its context window. So if you have a long conversation going, you need to remind it of what it needs to do, or remind it of information that was fed into it a while back in the conversation. So those are the 5 tools. And let's now talk just about prompting. So prompting is the key to get these to work well. But it isn't a science as some would have you believe. I want you to think of it and treat it as a chat, but it's critical to give it context. In fact, prompting will likely go away as a middle step between coding and the practical use of these products in the future, particularly as they integrate with voice, as I talked about with OpenAI and its phone app. However, prompting is really important because it allows for you to give it context and focus or relevance, to help it answer the question in the way that you need it to answer it. And what this will do is reduce the amount of time needed for a good response. So a good prompt will improve the accuracy. So there's a massive amount of data that it's accessing, but it lacks real-world understanding, and also it doesn't have the context of what you have in your mind. So if you don't write a very good question, it may not actually give you the right information. For example, if you write a blog post, you might get a generic post on any topic, what it happens to think is useful. Now, you may not do it quite that generically, but adding context like write a blog post on sustainable gardening tips for beginners will give an AI tool much clearer direction and likely give a much better response. In addition, you want to give it specificity. So GenAI tools excel at generating different creative text formats, but they need guidance to tailor their response to your specific need. So vague prompts can lead to generic outputs. Adding specifics like tone, the target audience, the desired length, those kinds of things will help AI craft a more specific and useful response for you. The other thing that you want to do by giving it a prompt that has more detail is you want to reduce the amount of ambiguity or give it improved clarity. So context helps add clarity to your prompt and understand your true meaning. So for instance, prompting writing a story about a ring could result in a story about a doorbell or a wedding band. Specifying write a fantasy story about a magical ring that grants wishes clarifies the type of ring and the desired plot or the desired intent of your prompt. Better control is also important. With a good prompt, it'll give you control over style and creativity. So here, providing context can allow you to influence the style and the creative direction of the output. So for instance, prompting, write a poem in the style of Edgar Allan Poe will give AI a reference point for tone and imagery. And then finally, you have the opportunity, you might hear these things called conversational AI. And that's one thing that's really great about these tools. GenAI tools are constantly learning and improving. So when you provide context and feedback on their outputs, you can help them refine their responses in future interactions. You can use the follow-up prompt to adjust the direction or style of the outputs that it's giving you and give it direction to tell it what you're really looking for. So in other words, interact with it as you would a person to direct the conversation. All right, that's the end of this video. There will be a second video that will talk much more about some specific AI-based tools, not the generative AI products that we've just talked about, but some other tools that are very specific for different areas of job search. So I look forward to talking to you in that next video.